Welcome back to the Best of Raleigh, and I'm going to tell you, if you've ever spent a sunny afternoon on a greenway, picnicked at Moore Square, or strolled through Dorothea Dix Park, then you've experienced the impact of today's guest, whether you knew it or not. Stephen Bentley is the director of the Raleigh Parks Department, and he's one of the visionaries behind the city's incredible green spaces, from planning and design to leading massive bond referendums. Stephen's work is quite literally shaping how we enjoy Raleigh. Today, we're digging into how public parks go from concept to community centerpieces, and how inclusion, collaboration, and some serious long game thinking and building a better Raleigh for everyone. So let's get right to it. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us. I've been really looking forward to our conversation.
Well, thanks for having me. I can talk parks all the time.
I love that. We love people who are passionate, and I can tell you are.
Welcome to the Best of Raleigh with your host and real estate expert, Gretchen Coley, owner of the Coley Group. This show is all about the people and places that make the Raleigh area so special. Here's your host, Gretchen Coley.
You know, we know each other through your wonderful wife, Lisa,
Yes.
who was actually the project manager with Kane, and she actually project managed building out the space that we're sitting in. So if you like it, it's part of it is because of her. And, you know, you guys just really you love living in Raleigh, right?
Love Raleigh.
So
Yes.
tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I've lived in Raleigh for over 20 years. I came here by way of Michigan. I was going to graduate school, working for the Forest Service, and it was too cold and too gray. So I was
get
like,
it.
I need warm weather, and I want like a mid-sized city, not
Yeah.
too big of a city, and I chose Raleigh.
Wow, so that's a big difference. Yeah, you know,
Big
the
difference.
Carolina blue skies on those snowy, even when it rains and snows here, we still get a little
That's
bit of
right.
sun on the same day. I tell people all the time, the seasons in Raleigh can change. You can
Yes.
have 4 seasons in one day. You can have 4 seasons in 1 week. So what led you to your role in the Raleigh Parks Department?
Yeah, I was working for Wake County Parks, which has a great park system, predominantly focuses on nature parks, and I wanted to focus more on urban parks, playgrounds, and community centers. And in 2005, so I've been with Raleigh Parks for almost 20 years, my 20th year,
Wow.
I took an entry-level position as a planner and was promoted over time. I worked in our budget office, learned about how we finance parks and roads, and then when we bought Dorothea Dix Park, I came back to the department about 10 years ago.
So we talked a little bit off camera about the difference between the Wake County Park System and
Yes.
the Raleigh Park System.
Yeah.
Tell me, highlight that for me, because that's not a stat I'd ever heard before.
Yeah, so first in Wake County, every municipality, Rollsville has one, Holly Springs, Cary, all great park system. The difference is Raleigh has 200 parks, 10,000 acres, 120 miles of greenways. In comparison, Roseville might have a handful of parks. So actually, the city was planned around 5 public squares, and 2 of them remain downtown, Nash Square and Moore Square. So parks are like in the pedigree of the city's history.
I love that you use that word, because the pedigree of the city's history, because it really is true. When you look at these old maps of old Raleigh,
Yeah.
what we used to call old Raleigh, they were centered around parks. There was even like a Ferris wheel, kind of like
Yes.
Yeah.
Poland Park's one of the oldest parks in the United States. So when you're inside the Beltline, a lot of the neighborhoods shape themselves around
Yeah.
the local park.
Yeah, and still to this day, the nickname is the City of Oaks. For those of you
Yes.
who don't live here yet,
Yes.
come on, City of Oaks. When you fly in, you'll understand why.
Here's a fun fact. In 1968, we did a park plan and we called it a park with a city in it. And now cities today are like, we're calling ourselves a park with a city. And I'm like, thank you. We've been saying that for 50 years.
I love that. That's a good nugget. We're going to use that in some
Okay.
videos. A lot of videos. I'm going to remember that one. So you oversee the entire Raleigh Park system.
Yes.
What does that encompass?
Oh, encompasses a lot. I mentioned how many acres we have and the number of parks, but we also have a couple dozen community centers. We have multiple art centers. The Office of Raleigh Arts is in the Parks Department. That's the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources side. We have about a dozen historic sites. So everything from our greenways to aquatics to community centers to the arts, that's the Raleigh Park system.
That's a really big job, and it's a
Yeah.
really important one. And after living in Raleigh since 2023. I've been in real estate for 25 years. My husband's a real estate developer. We understand and appreciate all that the Parks and Rec centers do for us. I have 3 children. I have a 21-year-old at NC State. I have twins who are seniors in high school. So I've raised my family here. And the Parks and Rec department in my municipality, Holly Springs, but which feeds into everything, was so important to my children's way of life.
Yeah.
Like I remember days in Crowder Park and, when they were 3 and 4 years old, going and looking at looking at the turtles.
Yeah.
We didn't feed them. Looking at the turtles,
Sure.
Seeing the snakes and walking the trails and being able to just go fish in some of the ponds, and having playgrounds.
Yes.
Like I think the parks are so well thought out. So you take that piece of it, but then you also take, when they're 4 and 5 years old, they're playing soccer at Womble Park. They're playing basketball at the Hunt Center, and they're doing art camps, dance camps, you name it. Everything was under that umbrella. And that's a thing that a lot of people who are coming into Raleigh don't have where they're coming from, right? It's really special.
It is special. So when companies come to the Triangle, they're looking at good education and good public amenities, and one of them are parks, right? So it's nothing for me to meet with the planning department or economic development or talk to someone who's going to build a subdivision and say, hey, I see this is a future park. Can you tell me about it? Because it's part of the brand of the neighborhood. So, our field basically is impacting everything from children around 3 years old all the way up to we call active adults, not seniors. And we have 2 active adult centers in Raleigh. So I was walking through one the other day. I met an individual, 89 years old and working out. And I was like, gosh, I hope to be doing that when I am 89.
Oh, I will be. You will be too.
Yes, I will.
Because we're spending a lot of time outdoors in the parks and we're getting all that fresh juju.
Yes.
So you've been in public service for 20 years. And what really, why did you choose the outdoors? Why did you choose the forestry?
Yeah, I actually was thinking about being an athletic trainer or a gym teacher, and I didn't like the human anatomy, physiology classes. I took a class in leadership, happened to be in recreation, and it opened my world to a different profession that I did not think you could do for a career. When I told my parents I was going into parks and recreation, they were like, what the bleep is that? But now when they come to Raleigh and they see these magnificent facilities that we're building, they're like, oh, I get it.
Aren't they proud?
Yes.
Aren't you proud?
I am. And I want to say it's really about the people that I have surrounded myself with. I have great assistant directors. We just have a wonderful staff.
The Raleigh Parks department is massive.
Big.
How many people are you working with on a daily basis
so
that are not citizens of
we have roughly over 450 full-time staff, and at our peak, which is coming up this summer, we're about to hire a couple hundred camp counselors. We have over 1,000 part-time staff. So that's lifeguards, people who are mowing, picking up the garbage. Urban forestry is in the Parks Department. So if there is a tree along a street, the Parks Department is responsible for that. So pretty big department.
That is a massive department. I have a team of 30 people, and I can't even see straight. So I love the fact that you're still here and you're smiling and you have time to be on this podcast.
I earned all these gray hairs, Gretchen. I earned every one.
You did. I know you did. So you played a key role in 2 major voter-approved referendums.
Yes.
What's it like to lead those kinds of efforts? Because everything that we see starts with that, right?
It does. So just for listeners, a referendum means that people that live in Raleigh go and vote and determine whether they want a slight tax increase for more parks. And I was involved strategically in 2014, which was roughly 88 million. And then 2022, we have $275 million worth of park projects that are going to go.
Thank you.
And what that means is we engage our citizen boards, neighborhoods, business leaders, and talk about the value of having healthy experiences, a healthy lifestyle. That's physical and mental health, right? Because we talk a lot about people's mental health now. And then just purely the opportunity to have bike on a trail so you don't have to bike on the street. So that's our Greenway system. Yeah, so Raleigh's approved those, thankfully, for over 70% approval rating in the last 2 bond referendums.
That shows you how much we in Raleigh love our parks, because $275 million is no joke.
One of our former mayors said if I got that type of approval rating, I would run for Queen of England.
Well, that's a testament, though. I mean, I was out at Lake Wheeler Park last week.
Okay.
4 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock, which is not my normal time there, right? Yep. My daughter was doing some not prom, but graduation photos.
Pictures, yep.
Oh my gosh. That you couldn't get a park in there. Like, you had to go circle around and around and around
busy.
and around.
Yeah.
It was so busy. There were people with their dogs. There were people picnicking with their Enos in the trees. There were people going all around, walking all around. I mean, it was absolutely packed. This is like a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah. Our parks, they're open from the morning until night. There is some downtime depending on where you're at. But now with the remote work environment or virtual work environment, people are like, you know what? 2 hours. I had a really busy morning. I'm going to go to the lake, walk my dog.
This episode is brought to you by the Coley Group, the #1 real estate compass team in the Triangle. And if you're thinking about buying or selling in the Raleigh area, or you just want to find the perfect neighborhood vibe, give us a call, shoot us a text, or jump on a Zoom with us, whether you're looking at moving in 6 days or 6 months. And if you're really interested in the Raleigh Parks and where the trailheads are, we've got a neighborhood match survey that we're going to link down below that you can spend 5 minutes and talk about how you want to live your life, how you want to do your Saturday morning, what's important to you in a neighborhood, and you're going to get linked up with 3 neighborhoods and 7 honorable mentions that would be perfect for your lifestyle. So take that survey below. How does it feel to you to go out, now that you've been with Raleigh for 20 years, to go to one of these parks and see what I just explained, and you had a hand in that? From your time in planning, from your raising, these referendums, and now with you directing it, how do you feel when you go into your spaces and you see them being fully used?
Honestly, sometimes it's imposter syndrome. You're kind of like, oh, wow, I built that 10 years ago. Or I remember maybe having lots of conversations with the neighborhood about their concerns. And now people will stop me and be like, hey, years ago I met you and you worked on Marsh Creek Community Center. And I didn't think that was a good idea. Now my kids all go to camp there. So yeah, it's very humbling, but I'm very proud. And again, it's the people that I have worked with, collaborated with, that have made this happen.
One person can't do all this, right?
That's right.
It is a true team effort. And to lead a team like you're leading, to do what you're doing, which you got to fight a lot of battles in between.
Yes.
And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. You see one thing on the docket and you're like, oh, well, never, not in my backyard.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Not in my backyard. But you're not seeing the big picture. And so to have to go, I wouldn't want to do your job, to have to go and like convince everyone and get everyone a win so that everybody can join in together. You got to give wins out like crazy and help build the vision of what you see when there's nothing there.
Yeah, it's having people see what can be. And even if we disagree, is letting your voice be heard, right? To say, you know what, at least Stephen sat down with me. He heard me out, and I might not really like it, but my voice was heard. And if they don't go to me, they go to our city council. And then I also get another phone call. So, but our council historically has been very pro public spaces and the investment. So I'm also thankful for that.
Well, and I do think the population of Raleigh has changed, right?
Yes.
At last stat was like 70 or 80 people a day move here.
Yeah.
So over 20 years ago, it wasn't the same way.
That's right.
It was a lot of people who, considered themselves Raleigh natives, or they had been here for most of their adult life. Now we're seeing people who've been here for 5 years who moved here because of the parks department and the economic development that's here and the opportunity that's here, and so they get it a little bit.
They do get it, and having a great park system for a long time, we're going from a suburban type system to an urban system, right? So that means traditional soccer might be pickleball or padel, like all these things that people are like, hey, I lived on the West Coast, or in New York, and they said, I want that in Raleigh. And then we're open to it. Demographics change from younger, older, different parts of the world come here. So
I love
adjusting those trends so we could meet them
I
is
love
important.
that you are that you can pivot like that. I love it that you can bring in, because I think it's important. So I got a great question for you.
Okay.
From Dorothea Dix to Moore Square renovation. These are landmark spaces for our community. What's been your proudest moment working on those?
Whew.
That's a tough one, isn't it?
It is tough.
Because you probably have a lot of proud moments.
I do. Dix Park is transformational. It is not a park project. It's an economic development project and a huge civic infrastructure project. Standing there and seeing the acquisition between the governor and our former mayor McFarland's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All the way to we're going to open up the first phase, which is called the Gibson Play Plaza. It's off of Lake Wheeler Road. It's about 25 acres of the $370 million project. We will have a piece of history and see that open. That's remarkable.
And that's this summer.
That is this summer. Yeah, as early as June.
So what are we planning to do for this unveiling? Do we have some insider sneak peeks we can get?
Fun is the focus. Well, always doing things creatively, right? So I'm sure you'll see some cool use of lights. And because the arts are in our department, we'll find out some funky ways in which we can have people have a serious wow factor when we open.
So let's talk just a tiny bit, because Dorothea Dix, you just said a few things. It's not just a park, it's an economic development. And what was the other one you said?
It's civic infrastructure.
Civic infrastructure. What does all that mean to Raleigh? And what is the vision for Dorothea Dix?
So, wonderful question. Dorothea Dix Park was a plantation, then a mental hospital, and now will be our version of Central Park. It will be North Carolina's park, not just a city park. And when I say civic infrastructure is we want you to go see public art. We want you to go to Dreamville, which happens to be this weekend, or just walk your dog at the dog park. So a place for everyone, age, doesn't matter. So that's part of the civic infrastructure. Economic development, if you drive up Lake Wheeler Road, there's over $1 billion worth of private investment on that road alone. But that also comes with challenges. How do you make sure people can live nearby and walk to the park? So we work closely with our planning department and our housing department. So the economic development aspect, it is good for business, but also understanding how does that impact the city as we grow.
Well, I think I had not heard that it is very much going to be the Central Park of Raleigh. And it's awesome, because if you haven't been to Dorothea Dix, the skyline view is incredible. We love the sunflowers. We love the winter nights, the Christmas lights. We love all of that. And, when I first moved to Raleigh in 2003, it was Dorothea Dix had kind of a bad condemnation. It's changed dramatically since then.
Yeah, so that part of town had the mental hospital, has the prison, which is still there, and used to have a landfill. It's now repurposing as we grow. NC State's one of our edges. The farmers market's one of our edges. So the city is going to grow around the park.
I think that's amazing, because that area of town needs to really needs to grow, and I think that park's going to be instrumental, and I'm excited to see it come to life. So I'll have to get down there this summer. Hopefully I get an invite to this party.
I will make sure.
I like fun.
Yes.
So what lights you up every day, Stephen? This is a big job.
Yeah. I thought about it a couple of times when people are like, aren't you stressed out? I was like, I am. Everybody's got stress. Trying to close on a home is stressful. But when I walk into a park and I see someone ride a bike for the first time, learning how to swim, learning how to make jewelry in one of our art centers, that's amazing, right? People are learning these incredible things that they won't experience anything else but in our park system.
I love that you just shared that, because I think that encompasses what the park system is all about. In your eyes, what makes Raleigh's park system so much different than other cities?
Yeah, green. Like you said, when you fly into RDU and you see nothing but trees, it's a pretty amazing landscape. Our Greenway system. So most people, when I say I work for the Raleigh Parks Department, they don't tell me their favorite park. They tell me I love Raleigh's Greenway system. And that's 60 years in the making. So having 120 miles of paved greenways, you don't ever have to get on the street to
Paved.
Paved greenways.
Not mulch.
That's right. And that equates to about 3,000 acres of property. So when you get down on the Greenway, you don't feel like you're in the city, right? It's a chance you see deer or whatever birds along the creek.
And our greenways run through and around neighborhoods.
They do.
They
Yes.
connect everything. Like we obviously live in Holly Springs, and there's a huge greenway system that they're kind of piecing together. And the greenway system will go from a paved trail to a sidewalk
Yes.
to another paved trail, and they're really integrated into how we live our
Yeah.
life. So if you want to go ride your bike, you're not just riding on the sidewalks in the neighborhood. You can pick up a greenway in
Yes.
3 different directions from my house, and you can go all over Holly Springs. It's so cool. Raleigh's the same way.
It is.
And I think that's a thing that, like, people come in all the time and they're like, I want to be in a neighborhood with a trailhead.
Yes. Yeah.
That
we
is
hear
like a
that.
number one requirement. That and high-speed internet. Google Fiber, if you're listening.
Yeah, you can ride a bike across Raleigh to the town of Cary. So you can do 40 and 50-mile bike rides and never have to get on the street, which is good for families, right?
It's great for
Yeah.
families, yeah. It's great to how you live. So outside of Dorothea Dix in this summer, what exciting is happening? What are you excited about this year?
Lots of things. So we're launching a whole bunch of new camps in the Raleigh Park system. STEM camps, so science, technology, and math. We talked about the launch of Dorothea Dix Park's first phase, which is exciting. We also help support the 4th of July. So there is always something going on. And April coming up is Earth Day month. So we have Earth Day Festival, and we start our movie series at Fletcher Park and Moore Square. So yeah, lots going on.
If you haven't done any of that, you need to go to the website. Where can they find information about the Parks and Rec?
Absolutely. RaleighNC.gov/parks.
And then if they wanted to look at summer camps.
RaleighNC.gov/parks. And we have, it's called Rec Track. You can go and search for we have about 20,000 kids come through camp during the summertime.
And I'm going to tell you, it is very well priced.
Yes.
Like all of their programming, most of the parks are free.
Yes.
All the parks are free.
Parks are free.
But even these camps are so...
As low as $100 a week. And if you cannot afford it, we have a scholarship program. So I have one full-time staff person that makes sure fee is not a barrier, because every child should have a chance to go to camp.
How much do you love him? Like... I mean, he's got an answer for everything. This has been such an amazing conversation, Stephen. I appreciate you so much for all that you do. And I'm sure everyone out here is really like amazed at how this park system has grown and all of the services that you offer for the families who are living here and who are moving here. So if you haven't experienced it yet, go check out the website, get ingrained in it. I promise your kids are going to love it. You're going to love it. Everybody in your family can enjoy the park system here. So thank you so much for joining us in today's episode of The Best of Raleigh, where we talk to the people, the businesses, and tell you about the places like the parks that you need to visit and do business with in Raleigh. We drop a new episode every Friday on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube. So just click that button below and follow us to know all of Raleigh's best. We'll see you in Raleigh.